Perfect. Welcome. I'm Christina Brown. I'm Kate Greeley. I'm a program director here at the foundation. I lead Leadership Denver, Access Denver, and the Fellows program. And today I'm going to step in as moderator because Christina fell ill. So I'm going to step in here. I hate to be so scripted, but I'm going to follow this so that I do everybody justice up here. All right. So with that, employee engagement is critical, as you all know, and as individuals, we want to feel connected to our organizations. We work on retention, productivity, benefits to the power of employee champions for our social impact programs. This is all stuff that we do. Leaders like ourselves have been scrambling to improve employee engagement for a long time. We're going to break it down for you, and we will have time at the end for questions. So I'm going to ask questions of Laura and Ellie, and then we'll have time for you guys to ask questions. A quick note, the panel is being recorded. The recording and all the resources mentioned will be shared by the V-Civic team in a follow-up email. If you're joining virtually and need support, please message Olivia. Now I'm going to introduce our guest. Allie Engelken is the Vice President of Community Development for the Denver Broncos Football Club, which is otherwise known as the best job in the world. She's responsible for community development department and the Broncos strategic approach to community partnerships and programs focused on engaging with the greater Denver metro area. Additionally, she manages the Denver Broncos Charities, the nonprofit philanthropic arm of the team, and all of its fundraising and granting initiatives. Recently, the Broncos were awarded ESPN's prestigious 2022 Sports Humanitarian Team of the Year. Thanks to Allie. Team effort. But go Broncos. We'll take it today. Let's make it important. And so please welcome Allie. Laura Roberts, Director of Gas Contracting at Xcel Energy. Laura manages a team of engineers responsible for the engineering and operations of the gas distribution center. Over 20,000 miles of main and over 1 million, and that's the main line pipelines. Okay, you just want to make sure I didn't miss it. I want my learning coming on too. And over 1 million customers. In addition to her day job, Laura supports Xcel's CSR team and is an employee champion, leading and encouraging others to get involved to help them win at work. Please welcome Laura Roberts. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask some questions, like we said, for about 30 minutes or so, and then I will turn it over to you to start thinking about those questions. Olivia will manage any questions from our online community. I'm going to start with this. Can both of you share a high-level overview of your employee engagement programs? You want to start?
I can start.
Yeah.
So at the Denver Broncos, we're committed to improving lives in the community. As an organization, community service is a pillar and foundation of what we do. And so we provide opportunities sometimes weekly for employees to engage with the community through volunteer projects and outreach initiatives. I have a unique role, and we'll get to it a little bit later, because when you look at the Denver Broncos, obviously the players are the most visible aspect of our organization, but the players are not even considered full-time employees of the team. And so while the players are very important and the visible aspect of what we do, I'm really focused on making sure that I'm being inclusive of the other 330 employees who work at the stadium, our coaching staff, and work at our practice facility. And so I'd say when you boil down what I do, my goal is to help others help others. And so I create programs and work with an incredible team to make sure that we're utilizing our brand as an agent for change.
Great. Similar but different, right? We don't have the player aspect, but we're still providing, a service to the community with the energy and the natural gas that we provide. So we, again, try to be that partner with our community. So a lot of volunteer projects, rather than coordinating them and setting them up, I'm usually the participant and, rallying the army of troops behind the scenes to get people to show up and participate. Xcel Energy does volunteer paid time off. I was actually doing that today. We were talking about that earlier. So did a quick wardrobe change out of my volunteer shirt to get here and look presentable for you guys. So hopefully I'm not too disheveled here. In addition to our volunteer programs, we also do a dollars for doing. So if you're not volunteering during work hours, Xcel Energy will still contribute money for every hour outside of work that you're volunteering, up to a certain amount. And then we do matching gifts as well. So if you're not able to give your time, but you're able to give your money, Xcel does match dollar for dollar. Up to, again, a limit of what we do for the community as employees at Xcel.
Laura, where were you today and how many employees were with you?
Yeah, it's our annual day of service, and our day of service is, our day of service is actually 3, 4, 5 days long since COVID happened, so try to spread it out and make smaller groups. So today we were at Colorado Feeding Kids doing assembly line meal packing. So we'll pack 20,000 meals today, and then we've got 4 more shifts, 2 tomorrow and 2 on Saturday. It's impressive. Yeah, so that's just my project. I think they've got 40 projects going on around the state, so it's a good day. That's a fun time of the year, busy.
Can you both help us understand why you do these programs from both a social and a business perspective?
Yeah, I would say from a social perspective, I feel very fortunate working for an organization that is one of the most recognizable brands in the region. Some would say at certain times, depending on how we're played on the field in the country. And we feel as an organization that we have the responsibility and the obligation to give back to the community that gives us so much. And so when you look at an organization, a professional sports team, we can't do what we do, we can't be who we are without our fans supporting us. And so knowing that our fans come from an incredibly diverse, not only geographic area, but all walks of life, it's important for us to connect with them individually and show support for those who may need it most. I think from a player perspective, player role models are incredibly beneficial to the community work that we do and connecting players with causes and organizations that are important to them. So from a social standpoint, I would say that is kind of top priority is basically, again, that brand giving back to the community that gives us so much. From a business perspective, I would say over the last, this is my 12th season in the NFL, over the last decade, the interest in corporate social responsibility from a business perspective grows exponentially each and every year. And so prior to this big boom or this new boom, community was a fun throw-in, and it was we'll do something nice in the community with the corporate partner and it'll be great. And now we are brought in on the front end for all of those discussions. So what does outreach look like in partnership with Xcel Energy, one of our partners, with Comcast, one of our partners? Like, how do we utilize both of our brands to increase our impact together, really utilizing teamwork as the #1 way to do that. So from a business perspective, we see benefit through our corporate partnerships, but also additional revenue to the team. So through fundraising efforts, individual programs, we're able to do more with the help of more.
I do this because it's just part of who I am, right? I'm the one showing up to participate in the things that you talk about, right? Exactly. And because of my leadership position at the company, right, that brings a lot of weight in encouraging other folks to sign up. That's not why I do it, but when they see a leader at my level doing it, then other folks feel like they can take, 4 hours away from work this afternoon to go participate in these activities. So not only do I do what I do to help my community and be that person out in the community and support my community, I'm very blessed. I've had a lot of things go right in my life, and not everyone is that lucky. And I'm hoping to just give everyone else a little bit of that luck that I got out of life. So again, bringing the Army along with me is a lot of what I do and what my role is and why I'm here today to help you guys, encourage your armies to come along with you and to find people like me in your organization who do have that in their DNA, who do value it. Business wise, right? We've talked a little bit about retention. You mentioned that word there, right? So there's a whole new generation of people out there who do value what people can do in the community, so having those volunteer paid time off hours is something that can encourage some folks to stick around or be interested in your company or whatever it may be. Not everyone cares. So you got to recognize that too. But when you find those people who do care, those are typically the people you do want on your team. And so it's a really great thing to be able to offer that to them. You're all here because you value it as well. So, you know, finding those partners in the world to encourage everyone to go out and make the world a better place.
Great, look, that's a great segue right into impact. So Ally, I have an impact question for you, kind of based on what Laura just shared. We know how important tracking and measuring can be. Can you share the top 2 KPIs for social and business you track? And how do you go about measuring them?
Yeah, I would say I want to specifically focus on KPIs related to employee engagement, since that's kind of topic of what we're discussing here today. So our top 2 KPIs for employee engagement, one is volunteer time, so hours, minutes, time. And the reason that we track that is how we utilize or that is how we transition those hours into true economic impact. So utilizing the independent sector's value of volunteer time is how we can contribute back, in addition to our financial and in-kind support. And so time is really important to us. And then the other KPI, and this is more of an internal tracking reason for us, is the number of employees, but it's the number of different employees, because every organization should be lucky to have a Laura. And I have a Dave, like at the Broncos, his name is Dave, and I love him dearly. And he comes to every single employee engagement event. And so that's incredible. And his hours, you know, added up are, you know, true impact in the community. But I'm looking for the number of different employees each and every year. And that's how I strategically plan for the next upcoming year. So if I'm seeing that if the majority of our events happened on weekdays and I saw a decline that I don't have enough employees participating from our ticket office, maybe that's something I need to look at to be more inclusive of all of our employees, of those who are in a call center, those who cannot leave their office during office hours, still want to feel included. So then expanding into some evening volunteer opportunities, some weekend volunteer opportunities. So those are the 2 greatest KPIs related to employee engagement. I do share those internally and externally. So after each employee volunteer opportunity, we will share with those employees their economic impact. So the value of their volunteer time, along with all of the fun statistics. If you packed 20,000 meals today and we packaged 8,000 pounds of food, whatever that may be. And then at the very end of the year, I also share with our executive team the breakdown of the employees. So we had this many employees at a director level and higher, this many employees from this department. This was the department with the highest percentage of participation. And while in football, everything we do is competitive, I don't do that in a competitive reason, but I do that to show our leadership team how the employees are utilizing their time in the office and outside of the office.
Great, thank you for sharing. Laura, this one's for you as a CSR champion. What are you hearing from employees on how they want to engage and what they are looking for? And then the follow-up, when you hear that, how do you provide feedback?
Yeah, it varies, right? Each and every one of us is different. We all have a different passion. And so a variety of opportunities is what people are looking for. Xcel has like 3 focus areas, I think they've changed recently, so I'm gonna be terrible at that, not be the Dave of the world. But what I'll say is, you know, that's where we tend to get like our grant money, is those focus areas. And then the volunteer activities are across the board based on what people want. And so a lot of that's just bubbling it up to the right people, you know, being loud enough that you get heard and your activities get brought up to the list. But, you know, it ranges from anything from kids are a great one. Everyone loves kids. No one can argue about kids. But there are, you know, health issues that people like to get involved in. Pets, people love to get involved with things that food insecurity. Yep, food insecurity, homelessness. So the feedback, I think, is just pretty natural once people know who to talk to, right? And so getting the Ally's names out into the world of who can help you. And then we do a lot of, you know, encouraging teams to do team building activities that are built around volunteer activities. So that helps make some of those connections with the right leaders in the organization, the right people in the CSR groups that can help make those opportunities a reality and make it less work for you all and for, you know, me or my employees. They can do all the behind the scenes stuff to make it easy. And that's one thing I'll say, like, from an employee perspective, make the numbers easy, right? If I have to log into 4 different systems, it's not gonna happen. You're not gonna get the right numbers. And so figuring out how to make it easy for the people to log their time or whatever it is that the numbers matter. That's how you get funding in some cases, right? Make it easy for me, otherwise it's not gonna happen.
And to that point, I track all of the individual hours for employees that are participating in a team sanctioned event. So they don't have to clock in, check in, anything related once they get on site. I take attendance. I work with the nonprofit on all of the back end metrics of that, but I track that so an individual doesn't have to on their own.
With COVID the last 2 years, how have you seen engagement change?
Oh, it's like a roller coaster. So I
A
think,
roller coaster and the Broncos.
yeah, it was a lot for everyone. So
People
that,
change the way they want to engage.
yes, I would say. I think at the very height of COVID, working in the NFL had a really unique situation. Because of secure and restricted access at the team level, employees were tiered. And at the height of COVID, no exaggeration, like a tier 2 could not be within 6 feet of a tier 1. More than 3 tier 1s could not be together in the same room. Like there were a lot of those types of restrictions. And so depending on your tier level, you sometimes could not volunteer. So you would want to, but because there was a tier 2 there, you were not allowed to go as a tier 1. So when you add that layer of the puzzle into, in the world of CSR, your entire goal is to bring people together for a common goal. And you could not literally or physically do that in the time of COVID. It took a lot of creativity. And so we tried to pivot immediately to not let go of any of our monthly momentum for our monthly volunteer activities. And so we transitioned all of our activities remote or virtual. We also realized that so many employees were now at home with children. And so we started offering activities that were family friendly that kids and other adults in the household could participate in. So 1 week, we typically volunteer with Food Bank of the Rockies, 1 month out of the year. So for that month, we then were creating cards at home that would go into all of the boxes that would be delivered out into the community. So how do we keep consistency with the types of programs that we offer, but make it safe and fun for those who want to give back in that way? And we still had our Dave who reached out of like, I am vaccinated, I'm comfortable being in public, I would like to still be in person, what can I do? And so we were still crafting monthly volunteer opportunities in person for a very small, limited number of people, plus the organization-wide monthly virtual and remote opportunities. And so I'd say that kind of took us through all of 2020. And coming out of 2020, I would say our employee engagement has almost increased coming out of the pandemic. I think employees realized that the need out there is so great, and so they want to give back more. It was a reconnection point for so many employees who hadn't been in the office for almost 2 years at some points, for them to see employees on their team where they only see each other on Zoom, but then they could go volunteer after that. So I feel very fortunate. Our employees are just an incredible group of people, but that was like the ebb and flow of how do we get people volunteering from home? How do we bring them back safely? We're still in daily testing for the NFL. And so it was a puzzle piece of just trying to make sure those who wanted to give back could, and it was accessible to them in any kind of buffet of opportunities.
What are you doing now in the moment with the change where folks are back and craving the engagement? How have you adjusted?
So we still offer monthly, we have a staff service program. So for the employees, non-coaches and players, we have a monthly volunteer opportunity. Those are all back in person at this point. I have tried, I would trial by fire. I'd rather try something and it not work than not try it and wonder later. So started the year, our team would plan smaller events, but more sessions of them. So serving a meal at Denver Rescue Mission, you can have 6 employees at one time. Once I started filling 3 shifts because I couldn't get everybody in who wanted to get to, then we started moving to larger opportunities where, all right, we can take up to 30 at the food bank now. But the interest is there, and and sometimes have to do multiple events a month just to get all the people who want to volunteer the ability to volunteer. They're back. You're back. You were the person today.
Back, yeah. So we're still wearing masks today. We're dealing with food, so not all normal, but most of it's normal.
Yeah.
And at Xcel, what have you experienced in the last 2 years and in the moment now in terms of the giving back, the volunteering, the engagement?
Yeah, I would say relatively similar to what Allie's experienced. You know, beginning of the pandemic, it was gone. You know, we couldn't do that. We couldn't put our employees at risk. We also did a tier system. It got messy. Yes, it's a lot. It feels much more normal today. I would say it's not normal as I'm kind of reflecting back on what we did pre-pandemic. It's not back to normal, but it feels a lot more normal. Like Allie described, right? There's in-person opportunities and that's really all you can ask for at this point. It's not the same opportunities. It's still different. There's still at-home opportunities. So it put a lot of work on our CSR team to put kits together, right? That could be picked up or delivered. So it was a lot more work for that team. But to capitalize on the momentum, you know, it was needed. And as you described, right, everyone wants to do something. We all felt so crippled in those years, in that moment. So it feels much more normal now, even though it's not quite normal. You know, pre-pandemic, the Colorado Feeding Kids Day of Service for Xcel Energy was 600 people. We had 50. So it's not normal, but it's back to where we're doing normal things.
Thank you. What do you consider when, Ellie, maybe this is more specific, but Laura, you can pipe in too. What do you consider when planning of how to engage your employees? What are all the considerations you have to take in?
So the unique things that I have to take into consideration that are unique to our organization, game schedule. Are we home or away? Are we playing on Monday Night Football? Are we playing on Thursday Night Football? So that is a unique one that I truly realize that I'm the only one that has to deal with that. I also will take into consideration our stadium event schedule. So Empower Field at Mile High is very fortunate to host a multitude of events throughout the year. So everything from concerts to dirt shows to private events. And so I always look at the Broncos schedule. I look at the Empower Field at Mile High schedule. I look at historical reference of calendars of what we've done previously. If there's a specific month or a heightened awareness around a specific month, I will look at that. I also look at, was last month's event on a Wednesday? Maybe this month's event isn't on a Wednesday. So I try and vary the days of the week as well, knowing that some jobs within the organization are very cyclical to when they can volunteer. And so it's just a big calendar puzzle. Like you look across the entire calendar, you know, I want to do something in this space. We are fortunate, we have some long-term programs that we do each and every year. So those slot in very easily. And then we have others that I would say when I head into a season of our monthly service events, I probably have 8 planned, like ready to go, planned, date selected, good. And then I use 4 on hold that if an employee comes up with an idea or wants to support something, it's a tradition in our department that our intern gets to plan one that is of most interest to them. So we've always assigned one to an intern or another staff member. But I take all of that into consideration when like truly logistically planning. So picking the date, picking the time and doing all of that. In terms of the more strategic approach to planning, I really think through just a variety and diversity of opportunities. So looking across all of our existing community partnerships, grant recipients, are we spreading our resources wisely throughout the community to give our employees a taste of all of the different types of organizations that we work with? So that's like the nuts and bolts plus the strategy behind.
I'll chime in a little more tactically. Music, you gotta have music at your volunteer event. You gotta keep people busy. If people are gonna get bored, it's not a positive experience for them. Yep, hands-on, absolutely. Name tags, they're great also at volunteer events rather than, hey, you. I can, you know, talk to people like they're actual people. So those are kind of my heavy hitters, is like, how do we make sure it's a positive experience? So swag, food, snacks, anything like that
Snacks.
also makes it a pretty positive experience.
So there's something you said, Ally, that made me wonder how you do this. And please, either of you answer this. How do you decide to support a project that aligns with the company's pillars versus employee choice?
You kind of touched on it a little bit, and I would agree. I think employee focus or employer focus areas and pillars are incredibly important in terms of strategic vision. So from a team perspective or an organization perspective, funding, in-kind support really aligns in the team's pillars. I love that employee engagement doesn't have to. And so I use it to try new things. I use it to work with an organization that I don't want to say I'm testing, but I've heard great things, haven't worked with them directly. They're not going to receive a grant this year, but like, I want to see what they're about and I want to see what they do and how they operate. And we actually have some of our like dedicated core community partners that have come through those types of situations. So that's, like I said, I have some that are always planned regardless, no matter what, we are going to do these. But again, I would rather try it and see. And we have a project on the 23rd with an organization, We Don't Waste, that started in 2019, was our intern community service project that she planned. And it was one of the top projects of the year. And so now we go back every year. They've received funding from us ever since. They do all the food recovery from Empower Field and Mile High on game days. Like I look to strategically build those relationships because I think from a CSR perspective, it's really hard to like shake someone's hand and then write them a really big check. And so the ability to hands-on work with them and get to know them and get to know what they're about. That's the beauty of employee engagement, is you hear that from your employees too. So you hear people say like, I loved this, or they tell you months later of, I volunteer with them ever since you had that project. Like that's such a really incredible feeling. So I would say, try it. Why not try it in a low risk type of setting of having some employees volunteer with the group that you haven't worked with before?
And tell us a time when you tried something and it completely flopped.
Ooh, I'm gonna let Laura talk about the other one and then I'll come back to mine.
You want me to go?
You go. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll touch a little bit on the CSR girls have the hard job, right, of working the political system at the company to make sure, you know, the right things happen for the right reasons. That can be very challenging, and I'm grateful I don't have to be a part of that, right? I can be the participant, I can be, you know, the escalator of things that people do want. So it can be a very hard challenge politically, but as Ally was describing, right, you got to do what's right for the community and your employees. You can't focus on the politics, and you know, you got to wade through that how you need to in your own political environment. But if you're focusing on the right thing, it's all going to work out in the end. What was the actual question that Ally was asking?
Not the flopped one
Not
that I threw up. How do you support projects that align with the company's pillars versus employee?
Yeah, thank you.
Requests? Yeah.
So where you can find alignment, right? That's great. So one of the easy ones for Xcel is STEM. People love working with kids. People love working with STEM. It's a natural fit for an IT company. So that one's really cool. The things that are harder, right, are the arts and culture. But we know as a company, right, we're very invested in the success of Colorado and Denver. And naturally, right, culture and arts and those types of things come along with that. So it ends up working out, even if it's not a strategic pillar. I'll take a shot at a flop of mine if you want. I mean, the biggest challenge we have is people not showing up. So it blows my mind that we give away volunteer paid time off and people just don't show up. People don't want to participate. It's just, I don't understand it. And I need to take that step back and recognize not everyone's like me. And that's okay. They can have a different perspective. They can have a different opinion. They can have a different priority system, and that's okay. And it's all going to work out in the end anyway. So people not showing up is challenging for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah. So I would say on a flop, when we launched the staff community service series, this was in May of 2017. So we're just like into year 6 at this point. So May of 2017. I was new to the organization, and in my head, this went, wow, what a great way to like meet new employees, and what a great way to connect with the organization and the community. And I'm just community minded because that's my job. So I just was thrilled, and I was like, this is so great. And so I started reaching out to colleagues on my level of like, hey, let's plan an activity for you and your department. And I got 0 traction. It just like did not go over that well when I tried to make it invitation only or like work with someone. And I've seen since then, the projects that are open to everyone do the best, because it gives employees an opportunity to meet other people. It doesn't feel forced, like my boss is making me go to this. It's truly more voluntary. And I think that's what I learned through that process was, you can't force fit fun, and you can't force fit like good old fashioned community work. But when I opened projects up to the entire organization, that's where the traction came back in. And now on the flip side, so now 5 years later, I see some of those colleagues that will reach out to me when an opportunity is posted of like, can you hold 5 spots for our department? We have a new staff member and we want to do this together as a team. And so I'm like, okay, like full circle, it all comes around, but I couldn't be the force fit to make that happen. You have to meet people where they are. And at that point, no one was at the same place that I was at. But now that's a great opportunity for the bonding that I think I was hoping for 5 years ago has now come full circle.
I like that, meet people where they are.
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
And some people love a plug and play. They love I read this email, I check my calendar, I'm free from 9 to 11 on this date, I'm good, I'm signing up. And some people love that. And it's like easy and it makes sense. And then on the other side, some managers love to be the one to encourage others to go with them. So once I took a step back and got out of my own way, then it all came together. But that'd be a flaw.
Walks are gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like what I would encourage is reach out and ask for help. Usually you're in your own way for some reason. And so get another brain, get another opinion, get some thoughts flowing, and that's gonna help you out. One of the situations we had, this was pre-COVID even, I think we were struggling. I think it was either school supplies or Christmas gifts. And like nothing was showing up. I don't remember why. And I'm like, and someone reached out and was like, what's going on? And I'm like, why don't we do like an Amazon wish list? So they don't have to go to a store. They don't have to pick it up, right? They can just click a button
And it shows up.
and it shows up, and it was amazing. People loved it. We doubled what we had. So get another brain. It's not all on you. Like it's supposed to be a partnership. It's supposed, people love problem solving, right? Get other people involved.
It's our last question, all right, before I turn it over to the group here. And both, or one of you can answer, but how do you prioritize employee engagement opportunities when so many companies are short-staffed?
I think what we have found as an organization, also going through staffing challenges. So I don't want, we are not fully staffed. So as an organization, we still have open positions. But it's emphasizing the volunteer aspect of volunteer work. Like this is not required. If your department is short-staffed and you can't get away. Again, it goes back to meeting people where you are. And so we'll continue to provide the opportunities because it's important to us as an organization. And those who can join us, great. And those who can't, maybe they'll come to another one. So I think that's how we will continue our commitment moving forward to that. And I think prioritizing, like sometimes an hour or two out of the day can improve the employee experience and the retention for those that are there. And so I would hate to take something away because we need to all be at our desks and we have to get it done and we're covering for 5 other people or another department, that you can feel more connected to the organization sometimes by just spending an hour away from your desk and with your other colleagues that you want to be around and enjoy. And then you feel refreshed going back to it afterwards. So I would say we would never want to take it away because of a staffing challenge. And I, again, biased, but completely believe that it adds value to the employee experience to have those opportunities.
I don't even think that's a bias. I think there's research out there.
There is, but
Yeah.
when it comes from the community, it seems like a bias.
And there's a very similar sentiment, right? I have a team. We never have enough people. We never have enough money. We never have enough resources.
Never
Right,
have
to do-
time.
Never have enough time to do everything we want to do. So it's just, what do you want to prioritize? And I'll continue to go back to meet people where they are. Some are not gonna value it, and that's okay. And find the folks who do value it and capitalize on that. So make the time for what's important to you, make the opportunities. People will show up, or they won't, and you'll get another person to help out.
And that also goes back to the scheduling aspect of, depending on what the passion area is, what the project is, like there are employees I see once a year. And I know that when we do a military themed project or a military appreciation project, I know the 5 people that I will see at that one project. And then you have a date who's going to come to every single project, but I think the variety and the diversity and the types of projects you do also help alleviate that balance. So no one feels like I have to go to everything. I can be selective with what's happening, or what I'm passionate about. Or we also have projects that you can bring family members to, not all of them based on capacity limits, but if it's an evening or a weekend project, majority of the time families are welcome. And so if you're looking for a unique opportunity with your family, like here's a perfect way to marry those together. So that's helped us keep the priority of having the opportunities, but without really structuring ourselves into a hole of having to do this at a specific day and time in the workday.
Audience, what do you have? And then Olivia, let us know if a question pops up online. Yeah.
Question. I mean, both the Broncos and Xcel Energy are like so impactful in the community. You see them everywhere and involved in everything and supporting so many different organizations. But what employee engagement or team building initiatives do you guys have like within your 4 walls, so to speak? Like that doesn't require an employee like going off site or volunteering somewhere.
A great question. I would say out of 12 staff service events, I would say 5 to 6 are at a facility. We have a unique challenge that we have 2 offices, so in Powerfield at Mile High, as well as the UC Health Training Center. We will rotate. So if a project, the last time a project was hosted on site was at Empower Field, the next time a project is hosted on site, it'll be at the UC Health Training Center. So we will schedule opportunities on site so they don't ever have to leave. They never have to get in their car to go to a project, and that helps with a lot of participation. That also helps with our coaching staff. Our coaching staff very rarely during season can't, but in the off season very rarely leaves the building. And so when our head coach, Coach Hackett was like, I really want to do a project, like we can't really leave. What can we do? Like, let us bring a project to you. And so that's when you get into kit making. Our coaching staff did during a mandatory mini camp. So like could not leave the building, did tie blankets for patients at Children's Hospital. So again, it's keeping this arsenal of like in your back pocket, what you can do, but we do not always have offsite projects. It's about 50%, I would say, at a nonprofit versus at a facility.
Yeah, it's very similar, right? We have many offices around the state, let alone more states that we work in, right? So I would say kits are a big thing. There are some nonprofits who will just bring all the materials to you and they have the kits, and your CSR team doesn't have to suffer if you're building kits. So there's options. It's a lot easier and more impactful, I find it, if you can get folks to go show up at a nonprofit and hear them speak and see their facility. But again, it's not always an option, right? So when you're trying to meet people where they are, you know, doing something in the office is definitely an option. I think it's a little harder to organize, in my opinion, but
I have a similar kind of follow-up question, because we're a nonprofit that helps connect individuals that want to help support other nonprofits to other nonprofits. And we've worked with a lot of businesses, and where we've seen the most success, especially with businesses that have hourly employees, or like a Deloitte where they're very specific in terms of their billable hours. We've seen sometimes there can be a conflict, right? Like, we want you to volunteer, but you also have to have 50 billable hours or whatever, you know, that is, or you're an hourly employee, so you can't do that. Have you guys structured your your sort of ability to be able to allow those individuals to volunteer by saying, and you can bill your hours, you're still gonna get paid, you can use this billing code. So that the culture kind of matches the policy,
Yeah.
side of it.
At Xcel, we've got the 40 hours a year of volunteer paid time off.
Okay,
So you literally write on your
So
time
fill it
card, right, volunteer time.
yeah,
So, yeah, we have that for 40 hours a year.
got it. And is that enforced too? Because culturally, sometimes that can be challenging where yes, again, yep, that's there, but maybe that manager says, but you still have to get this done, right? Or whatever that is that, how do you handle that? I'm curious.
Sure,
Yeah.
it is, right, you do need approval from your leader to use that time for sure, and so, I don't have any experience with leaders who have ever told me, no, you can't go volunteer, right?
Yeah.
And it may be, yeah, you need to go get your work done, and you can volunteer, just make sure you get your work done too, and so that's my personal choice, right, of how am I gonna balance these two things, and one week I might say, hey, Bonnie, the Ally of Xcel, I'm not gonna be able to show up on Friday. Who can I find for you to fill my spot, right? Still trying to make sure that what we want to happen happens, but I need balance in my life too. So I'm sure there are managers out there who don't support it. And hopefully you can connect them with the Allies and Bonnies in the world and make sure, right, that they hear the value and the statistics on why it's great for retention and why it's great for focus and those types of things. So finding the people who can be in your army to help and support you.
We have a much less formal process, so if a volunteer project falls within the traditional workday, so 8 to 5, it is paid for hourly employees that are already clocked in. If it happens outside of the work hours, the traditional work hours, it is truly volunteering. We don't pay back and don't track that separately. We also do not have a reimbursement for other types of volunteer work because it's, once a month, a scheduled team activity. Our HR department works closely with any managers that have questions about, I have an hourly employee, they're getting close to, capping their hours or what that looks like, but we're going to do this as a volunteer. Like, we're very flexible to work with each of those individual managers. But it's a much more informal policy. And again, just the accessibility of it. Like we as an organization don't want someone to feel like they have to choose like work or volunteering in that type of setting. We're also in a really unique industry that you may have off a random Monday because you're working every holiday during the season. So like our holidays are a little bit different as well. But we work individually with HR and then as well as the managers to make sure that everyone feels like they can participate if they want to.
Hold on 1 second, if you don't mind, and it comes to you next. One that takes to Olivia has a question from our online community.
Yeah, so this one's coming from Meredith. So both of these programs are so well established in companies that clearly see the value of CSR. But how would you advise someone who's trying to start up this type of program at their company where leadership is not as bought in or it isn't started yet?
I'll take it. I am not the CSR person, right? So I'm just talking from my own, what would I do? I start from the ground up, right? So I find some friends who are with me in the company and really want to go work with Girls Inc. And let's go do something once a month. And then once we have that established, maybe we can escalate it a little bit and talk to the leadership team about, hey, there's a luncheon. Can you buy a table for us? We've been working with them for, 2 months or 6 months or a year. Just try to piecemeal your way into building something that doesn't currently exist, and maybe you'll get there.
Yeah. I think company buy-in, and that's the challenging part of the question, right? Is like, what if you're trying to start this and you don't have that buy-in? You have to crawl before you can walk, and you have to walk before you can run. And so you have to build capacity as your organization is building capacity and interest for that. And so if that is truly like a one day of service, we're all going to volunteer as a company one day. That's an easier ask than we're going to have monthly volunteer opportunities, which is an easier ask than we are going to have paid volunteer opportunities, which is an easier ask than we are going to have an employee matching gift program. And so I think building capacity as your organization is building capacity is key when trying to start something from the ground up, because I would love to get to an employee matching, like that's next on my to-do, because I feel like we've built the rapport internally and we've built the need and the desire to have that from an employee standpoint. And now I have all the information to back it up. So I have all of these employees donate all of their time. Like, what if we start with a matching program up to X amount this first year and see how that goes? And so I think building slowly, especially when it comes to getting organizational leadership buy-in, is helpful. I also think aligning strategically and politically aligning some of your first projects with what is most important to your leadership team is a really thoughtful way to do that. So if you know that you have someone on your executive team or your board who is also on the board of Girls Inc., like maybe we start with Girls Inc. as like a really great opportunity to connect, or Boys and Girls Clubs. So finding that alignment so you can get a champion. Like, you need to see our champion at the C-suite level to help build that with you. And so why not go to them with what's most important to you and how do we support that organizationally to start it?
I think also thinking about how can it give your business competitive advantage? You know, that's something to think about as well. So what are your competitors doing? What does your business want to be when it grows up? And so how do you model yourself to be that next big thing? And usually that is going to have some sort of volunteer program or give back program. So encouraging those thoughts to think strategically opposed to the short term, think the long term.
All right, we'll take two more. I see Mary and Tom have a question.
I'm just curious, we always really celebrate corporate sponsored events, but I know there are people on our team that are doing great things outside of, what we sponsor. How do you guys have any ability to recognize those folks and kind of tell their story? Because I think there can be some really powerful stories there that are outside of what we sponsor.
Yeah, I do think you have to be careful with recognition. Not everyone wants to be recognized, but for the folks who do,
Such a good point.
our day of service is a great opportunity for that. You know, we have so many projects going on and so many people involved, like that's a great opportunity for that person to host the project that they want to host and get, the company built around it. That's a really easy way to do it from how Xcel would handle it.
We have a unique program that we have had some really good traction with. So at the NFL, they have a program called My Cause, My Cleats. So basically, there's a lot of very strict uniform rules in the NFL. The NFL gives the players one pass, one designated game where they get to customize cleats for the cause or charity of their choice. And that has been a tremendous success at the league level. So trying to capitalize off of that, but also provide opportunities equitably across our entire organization. Like, why don't we do that for staff? And so we started a program, My Cause, My Kicks. So an opportunity for staff to support leading up to that game, a cause or a charity most important to them that does not have to have anything to do with team cause or charity. It can be related to a family member, a hometown. We have folks that will submit, I went to this Boys and Girls Club in Louisiana when I was growing up. So like, this is important to me. And then to your point on recognition is not everyone's thing. We highlight each of those organizations on our website, but don't associate them with the individual. But it's also elevating those causes in a really visual way, internally and externally. And then we will randomly select 5, confirm with them that they are comfortable sharing that story. We'll make a $1,000 donation in their name to that charity, and we will customize a pair of shoes for them specifically for that cause that they can give to the organization or display in their office. So we can't do that for all 330 employees plus the 90 or the 53 players on the team, but it's how do we have something that's scalable that everyone can participate in. It has a recognition element, it has a financial element, so a nonprofit is benefiting from that opportunity. And then it has a really cool leave behind and takeaway that if we're not supporting X charity, an employee still feels like the team cares about X charity.
We do something kind of similar, employee choice grants. So employees will submit and then everyone gets to vote on it. So gives people an opportunity to, again, their passion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My question, at Xcel, with the dollars for doers that you're mentioning this program, what number of employees or percentage of employees do you see participate in that program?
I have no idea. I can tell you, we also do like our annual giving campaign. We usually partner with, we always partner with United Way. Our employees don't have to give to United Way, but that's the one we partner with. So that, I have no idea the numbers. I'm gonna get them wrong if I even try. So I can connect with you afterwards and get you the numbers. So it's not as high as I would like to see it, ever, right?
That's a good answer.
Ever.
Well, I want to thank you all for being here, for engaging in this topic. And then I really want to thank Ellie and Laura for being here and sharing. I hope that those